Hi everyone, I hope you all watched the previous videos. Let's start the session. Hydrometer is based on which of these principles? So answer is buoyancy. Okay. A hydrometer is an instrument used for measuring the relative density of liquids based on the concept of buoyancy. Okay. They are typically calibrated and graduated with one or more scales such as specific gravity. Okay. So answer is buoyancy. Next question is the shape of our Milky Way galaxy is. Answer is spiral. Okay. The Milky Way consists of a bar-shaped core region surrounded by a warped disk of gas, dust, and stars. Okay. And the mass distribution within the Milky Way galaxy closely resembles the type of SBC in the Hubble classification. Okay. Which represents the spiral galaxies with relatively loosely wound arms. Okay, the different colors of different stars are due to the variation of it is due to the variation of temperature. Okay, for instance, the color of a star, which varies from bluish white and yellow to orange and red, is primarily due to its composition and effective temperature. Okay, and at all times stars emit light which is combination of several different wavelengths. On top of that, the color of a star can change over a time. Okay, the fundamental scientific principle in the operation of battery is, so the answer is dissociation of electrolytes. Okay, the fundamental scientific principle in the operation of battery is dissociation of electrolytes. Okay, which instrument is used to test conductive hearing mechanism? The answer is audiometer. Okay, an audiometer is a machine used for evaluating hearing acuity. They usually consist of an embedded hardware unit connected to a pair of headphones and test subjected subject feedback button, sometimes controlled by a standard PC. Such systems can also be used with bone vibrators to test conductive hearing mechanism. Okay. While catching a ball, a player pulls down his hands to lower the answer is here the momentum. Okay. A cricketer lowers his hands while taking a catch to decrease the rate of momentum. Okay. Cricketers increase the time by pulling their hands backward with the ball while taking a catch. Okay. If the length of simple pendulum is half, then its period of oscillation is. So here time period t equals to, okay, let's take t as a time period. Time period t equals to 2 pi root L by G. Here L is the length of the pendulum. Okay. G is the acceleration due to gravity. Okay. Length of pendulum. G is acceleration due to gravity. I think everyone knows this formula, right? So T is the time period. Time period. Okay. So here he asking what if the length is half? What will be the time period of the pendulum, right? So for that, here t is directly proportional to the root L, right? So let's take two situations. T1 is the original length, okay? T2 is the reduced length. So that is root L1 by L2, okay? Here L2 is half of the L1, okay? So we'll substitute that value L1 by L1 by 2, okay? Here it gets cancelled. T1 by T2 equals to root 2, right? So what he is asking, if the length of a simple pendulum is half, then its period of oscillation is. So here asking T2, right? So T2 is T1 by root 2. Root 2 value is 1.414, right? So it is decreasing. So it is decreased by a factor of root 2, right? Okay. So here the answer is D. Okay. Mist is caused by, the answer is water vapor at lower temperature. Okay. It's option C. Mist is a phenomena caused by a small droplets of water suspended in air. Okay. Physically, it is an example of dispersion. Okay. It is most commonly seen where warm, moist air meets sudden cooling, such as in exhaled air in the winter or when throwing water onto the hot stove of a sauna. Okay. I will write the definition here. Okay. It is a phenomena. It is a phenomena caused by caused by a small caused by small droplets of water suspended air. Okay. Suspended in air. Okay. That's what the mist is. Okay. And it is an example of dispersion. It is an example of dispersion. Okay. A particle dropped from the top of a tower uniformly falls on the ground at a distance which is equal to the height of a tower. Okay. Which of the following paths will be traced by a particle? So here the answer is parabolic. Okay. If a particle dropped from the top of a tower uniformly falls on the ground at a distance which is equal to the height of a tower, then a parabolic path will be traced by a particle, because when the particle is dropped, the point is called the point of projection, and when it reaches the ground, the point is called the point of impact. Okay. Now, if the 2 points is met with one another, the curve emerges parabolic in nature. Okay. Hence, we can say that the path followed by the particle is parabolic trajectory. Okay. When a barometer reading suddenly recedes, it indicates that climate is climate will be extremely stormy. Okay, so option B. Okay, in summer, when the barometers fall suddenly, a thunderstorm can be expected. And if it does not rise again upon its cessation, the weather will probably continue unsettled for several days. Okay, in summer, when a thunderstorm happens, there is a little or no depression of barometer observed. Okay, Charles' law is based on Charles' law is based on gas. Okay, a law stating that the volume of an ideal gas at constant pressure is directly proportional to the absolute temperature. Okay, I will write it down here. The the volume of an ideal gas, okay, at constant pressure. Okay, at constant pressure is directly directly proportional to proportional to the absolute temperature. Okay, absolute temperature. Okay, ultraviolet light of sun's radiation is prevented from reaching the ground atmosphere, reaching the atmosphere by the layer of. Everyone knows that it's ozone. Okay, option C. White cloths are cooler than black ones because this is because black is more absorbent than all other colors. Okay, the actual reason behind this is not heat, it's because of the energy light. Okay, the observable color of an object has to do with the light wavelengths that are reflected from that object. Okay, this reflection in turn depends the atomic and molecular properties of the object, its surface structure, and the angle at which the light hits it and at which someone observes it, among the other things. Okay, a black object like a t-shirt looks black because it absorbs all the wavelengths in white light and reflects none. Okay, as the shirt absorbs all the light coming from the sun and say a desk lamp, the energy carried by the light doesn't just disappear into the shirt, never to be seen again. Okay, instead, as the light is absorbed, it gets converted to other form of energy, usually heat. Okay, and then emitted by the shirt. The darker the object, the better it emits heat because it's better absorber of light. So here the answer is reflect all the light that reaches them. Okay. The primary colors in photography are the answer is red, blue, and green. Okay. In television and computer display, red, green, and blue are the primary colors. In photography, red, blue, green are the primary colors for capturing the image, but cyan, magenta, and yellow are the primaries for printing the image. Okay, in printing, cyan, magenta, and yellow are common primary colors. Okay, so here he asking about the photography. That's why we are choosing the answer red, blue, green. Okay, Doppler effect is associated with Doppler effect is associated with the phenomena of sound. Okay, it is defined as the change in wavelength and frequency caused by movement of an observer related to the source. Okay, so the answer is sound. Who invented electron microscope? Answer is option A. Knoll and Prescott. Okay. Metal teapots have wooden handles because since wood is a bad conductor of heat and metal is a good conductor of heat, so metal teapots have wooden handles so that the person does not feel hot while holding it. So answer is wood is a bad conductor of heat. Okay. Which of the following is the example of an ideal black body? A body is said to be a black body if it perfectly absorbs and radiates the energy, but does not reflect it. Okay, a pinhole box is an ideal black body. Okay, blackboard and castle, although black in color, need not to be a blackboard. So here the answer is pinhole box. Okay, the temperature of water at the bottom of a waterfall is higher than the top because water is slightly warmer at the bottom of a waterfall than at the top because the gravitational potential energy is converted first to kinetic energy of the falling water and finally to heat energy as it comes to rest at the bottom. Okay, so here the answer is kinetic energy of falling water is converted into heat. Okay, if we want to calculate the pressure of a liquid at the bottom of a vessel, the quantity which is not required to determine it. Options were height of the liquid column, surface area of the bottom of the vessel, density of the liquid, acceleration due to gravity at the bottom of the vessel. Okay, so here P equals to rho G H, right? Rho means density of the water, G is acceleration due to gravity, okay? H is height of the liquid or depth of the fluid, okay? So height of the liquid column is eliminated. So pressure is depends on the height. So it is eliminated. Surface area of the bottom of the vessel. It is not. Okay. Density of the liquid. It depends on the density. Acceleration due to gravity at the bottom of the vessel. It's also dependent. So the answer is here surface area of the bottom of the vessel. Okay. The water from a hand pump is warm in winter because the temperature inside the earth is higher than the atmospheric temperature. Okay. Water tank appears shallower when it is viewed from top due to it is due to the refraction. Okay. Let's see the example here. Okay. Rays of light reaching you from the object at the bottom of water do not come straight to you as they would if there was no water between you and the object. Okay. The light travels straight as long as it is in water, but if it emerges obliquely from the water into the air, it is bent downward. towards the surface. This bending is known as refraction. Okay, you can observe in the image. Okay, and it occurs whenever light passes from one transparent medium into another different density. Okay, let's say rarer to denser medium. Okay, for example, from water to air, from air to glass, like that. Okay, the eyes do not take the refraction into account, but judge the position of the object as if the light came in a straight line. Okay, for a ray of light to suffer total internal reflection, it has to pass from. A ray of light must fulfill following two conditions to suffer total internal reflection. The first one is ray of light must travel from an optically denser to optically rarer medium. You can see in the first one. Okay, here, this one. So denser medium to rarer. Rarer means less denser. Okay, so the incident ray passes from denser to rarer medium. Okay, and the angle of incidence must be greater than critical angle. So this is the critical angle. Okay, so this must be greater than the critical angle. Okay, so if these two conditions are satisfied, then the total internal reflection occurs. Okay, the answer is water to air because it travels from denser to rarer. Okay, instead ray travels from the denser medium to rarer. Okay, a stone is dropped from the roof of a house towards the ground. The kinetic energy of the stone will be maximum. A stone is dropped from the roof of a house towards the ground. The kinetic energy of the stone will be maximum at just before it touches the ground. Okay, the answer is C. A black body can absorb radiation of. Black body is an ideal emitter and an ideal absorber. No matter how much matter it has, it can emit an band spectrum which is continuous without absorption spectrum. Okay, it absorbs all the radiation falling on it, does not reflect any, and the rate of emission is proportional to the fourth power of temperature as given by Planck's law. So a black body is an ideal emitter. I'll write down. Black body is ideal emitter and ideal absorber. Ideal emitter and ideal absorber. Okay, so here the answer is all wavelengths can be absorbed by the black body. Okay, hydraulic machines work under the principle of. The answer is Pascal's law. Okay, Pascal's law framed by Blaise Pascal, and it states that pressure applied to any part of a confined fluid transmits to every other part with no loss. Okay, the pressure acts with equal force on all equal areas of the confined walls and perpendicular to the walls. Okay, this is base principle for the hydraulic system. Okay, transfer of heat energy from a heated coil to the cooking vessel takes place through the process of the heater coil radiates heat, It also transfers heat to the food being cooked by convection of water inside the vessel. Here, the heated water becomes less denser and moves upward, and colder water goes downwards towards the heat source. Okay, so here the answer is the first one is radiation and the conversion going to happen. If we want to calculate the pressure of a liquid at the bottom of vessel, the quantity which is not required to determine it. Actually, we have discussed this question previously, right? Okay. So, so here the answer is surface area of the bottom of the vessel. Okay. Height of the liquid column is right answer. And the density also right answer. P equals to rho GH, right? Pressure is depends on the density, gravity, and height. So first one is height, density is C, acceleration due to gravity is T. So B, C, D are right. B is wrong. Okay. The resistance of a bulb filament is 100 ohm at temperature at 100 degrees centigrade. If its temperature coefficient of resistance be 0.005 degrees centigrade, then its resistance will become 200 ohm at temperature of. So here um, R is given as 100 ohms, right? And temperature is 100 degrees centigrade, and alpha, that is quotient of resistance, equals to 0.005 per degree centigrade. Okay, so final one R dash equals to 200 ohms. So R dash equals to R into 1 plus alpha into delta T, that is T2 minus T1. Okay, so here final resistance is 200 ohms. Initial one is 100 ohms. 1 plus alpha is 0.005, that is, and T2 minus what is initial temperature 100 degree, right? So while calculating on T is around 300, okay, 300 degrees centigrade. Okay, so here the option is C, sorry, A. Okay, state whether true or false. At constant temperature, the resistance of a conductor changes according to the applied voltage. It's false because resistance is independent of voltage applied across it, right? So I'm gonna write it here. Resistance is independent of voltage. Okay. Voltage applied across it. Okay. So the statement is false. A strip of copper and another of germanium are cooled from room temperature to 80 Kelvin. The resistance of copper is a conductor while germanium is a semiconductor, right? Copper is a conductor. It is a conductor Germanium is a semiconductor. So in case of conductor, resistance decreases with temperature, while in case of semiconductor, resistance increases with temperature, right? The resistance of copper strip decreases and that of germanium increases in this case. So answer is option D. Okay. A battery of EMF 15 volt and internal resistance of 4 ohm is connected to a resistor if the current in the circuit is 2 amps and the circuit is closed. Okay. The resistance of the resistor and the terminal voltage of the battery will. Here we have to find the resistance of the resistor and voltage, right? So we have the formula I equals to V by R, right? So what is I? I is 2 amps. 2 equals to voltage is 15 volts by resistance is around 4 ohms, right? So connected to a resistors. So 4 plus R. Okay. So here the answer is R equals to 3.5 ohms. Okay. So the terminal voltage equals to 15 minus IR. V equals to IR, right? So that's what 15 already given. 15 minus 2 into R is 4. So 15 minus 8, that is 7 volts. Okay. That is the terminal voltage. What is the option here? Option D, right? Which one of the following statement is not correct? The Kelvin scale of temperature is called the absolute scale. And option B is visible light radiation has a wavelength range 400 to 7 nanometers. Option C is capacity to do work is called power. Option D is the wavelength of gamma rays is less than that of X-rays. So everyone knows that energy is defined as the capacity to do work, right? Here it is mentioned power. Instead that it is energy, right? So the answer is here the capacity to do work is power is wrong option. Which of the following properties is generally found in nonmetals? Properties of nonmetals. Nonmetals have high ionization energies and electronegativities. Okay, they are generally poor conductors of heat and electricity. Solid nonmetals are generally brittle with little or no metallic luster. Okay, so here they're giving the brittleness, right? So answer is brittleness. Tubelight is filled with Tubelight is filled with mercury oxide and argon gas. Okay, tubelight is filled with mercury oxide and argon gas, where mercury oxide is used to emit UV lights, while argon gas is used to provide an inert atmosphere within the tube. Okay, argon gas is used to provide inert atmosphere. Okay, provide inert atmosphere. Nitric acid, it is used to emit UV light, right? Used to emit UV light. Okay. Electrostatic precipitator is used to control. It is used to control air pollutants. Okay. You can see in the picture electrostatic precipitator. It's also called electrostatic air cleaner. Okay. A device that uses an electric charge to remove certain impurities, either solid particles or liquid droplets, from air or other gases in smokestacks and other fluids. Okay. The precipitator functions by applying energy only to the particulate matter being collected, without significantly impeding the flow of gases. Okay. Originally designed for recovery of valuable industrial process materials, electrostatic precipitators are used for air pollution control, particularly for removing particles from waste gases at industrial facilities and power generating stations. Okay, a micron is equals to option C. Okay, universal gates are N and NOR. Okay, at normal temperature, due to the puncture, the compressed air inside the tube of a car wheel suddenly starts coming out. Then the air inside the tube. When puncture happens, the air moves from the higher pressure region inside to lower pressure region outside. As air gains kinetic energy, it gains this energy from the internal heat of the air. So it will use the internal energy of the compressed air. So it uses the internal heat and temperature falls. Okay. So here the answer starts becoming cooler. Okay. Which of these instruments is used for infrared imaging science? What is the thermograph? Okay. Thermograph is an instrument that produces a trace or image representing a record of the varying temperature or infrared radiation over an area or during a period of time. Infrared thermography, thermal imaging, and thermal video are examples of infrared imaging science. Okay, thermographic cameras usually detect radiation in the long infrared range of the electromagnetic spectrum and produce image of that radiation called thermograms. Okay, velocity of sound in air does not depend on the velocity of sound in air depends on several factors, primarily on the temperature, okay, temperature, and second, humidity of air, okay, humidity of air, and third one is density of the air, okay, density of the air, okay. So here the option does not depend on is the pressure of air, okay. How can the boiling point of liquid be reduced? The liquid boils at the temperature when the vapor pressure becomes equals to the atmospheric pressure. So by decreasing the pressure on the liquid, boiling point of the liquid is reduced. For example, water boils at low temperature at higher altitudes, right? So by decreasing the pressure of liquid is the answer. Conversion of sound energy into electrical energy is done by microphone. Okay, two body two bodies A and B are of the same mass and the same amount of heat is given to both of them. If the temperature of A increases more than that of B because of the heat addition, then the specific heat capacity of A is less than that of B. Okay, that's the answer. So here we know the formula H equals to mass delta T. So S is inversely proportional to the temperature difference, right? So since temperature of A increases more than B, so specific heat capacity. Okay, in some books, C is the specific heat notation, right? So don't worry about the notation here. Okay, here S is the specific heat. Okay, we consider it. So since the temperature of A increases more than B, so specific heat capacity of A is less than that of B. Okay, that's the answer. Which of the following criterion is used for any metal to be used as cooking material? A material's suitability as a cooking material is greatly influenced by its thermal conductivity, not its lack of. Okay, cooking materials like pots and pans need to efficiently transfer heat to the food being cooked. Okay, therefore they require high thermal conductivity, not lower one. Materials with low thermal conductivity, like some types of stainless steel, can retain more heat but are not ideal for even heat distribution. So here we consider the metal. So that's why the less thermal conductivity is the answer. Least audible sound for most of the human ear is. It is option B. Okay, 20 Hz. So the ear can hear sounds ranging from 20 Hz to 20 kilohertz. Okay, this is the audible range. Amount of water vapor in given volume of air is known as. It is option C, absolute humidity. Absolute humidity is the measure of water vapor in the air regardless of the temperature. It is expressed as grams of moisture per cubic meter of air. Okay, remember the gram per meter cube. Okay, when a running car stops suddenly, the passenger tends to lean forward because it is because of the inertia of motion. According to Newton's first law of motion, every body has nature to maintain inertia of rest or motion until there is no net force applied on the body. Okay, so the answer is inertia of motion. The night is cooler in the desert than in the plain because nights are cooler in the deserts than in the plains because sand radiates heat more quickly than the earth. Okay, because deserts have such little water vapor in the air, it makes it harder to trap heat or cold in a desert. At night, the sun no longer heats the desert, and the heat from the day doesn't stay trapped. Okay, so the answer is sand radiates heat more quickly than the earth. The last question of the session. In which of the following substances the resistance decreases with the increasing temperature? The answer is carbon. Okay. Semiconductors have an energy gap between the valence and conductive bands. Heating carbon introduces more electrons in the conductive band, decreasing resistance. Okay. Cooling forces the electrons from the conductive band down to the valence band, increasing resistance. Okay. In insulators and partial conductors such as carbon, increases in temperature results in decreasing resistance. The semiconductors or insulators are said to be in negative temperature coefficient of resistance. Okay, that's all for today. Please watch the previous videos also for the better clarification regarding the subject for the competitive exams. Thank you.